Did you hear pushback from investors on why are you going down this route?
It's only now that we've launched a shampoo or a face wash, right? It took us 4 years to get here. We deal with about 800 raw materials that each of them needs to be processed in a certain way. There are certain vendors who are really good to startups. They relive their own startup journey by helping out startups.
How did you go about R&D? How did you figure out what products to launch?
See, the idea is not to build more. The less, the better. It depends on the scale also, right? If you are, a 10 crore business, nobody really gives you a lot of bow.
What does it take to get to 1,000 crores from here?
Probably 18 to 24 months of R&D work left for that 1,000 crore jump.
Is there any sort of protection for all the research that you've done?
No.
What are your top 3 learnings of building Nat Habit in the last 5 years?
Didn't let any experienced person come in and tell me that this cannot be done.
Hello and welcome to the Indian Dream Podcast Season 2. After a break of one long year, we are back. This season is going to be all about manufacturing. We're going to talk to founders and people who've built interesting manufacturing or manufacturing related business out of India. For people who've heard me from Season 1, you know manufacturing is a topic of great interest and I'm really excited for what lies ahead in the season. Today, we're going to talk to a founder who's built an interesting beauty and personal care brand in India. Now, you might think this is another D2C episode, but it's really not. We're going to talk about manufacturing. Hear me out. In the last 8-9 years, we've seen hundreds of beauty and personal care brands pop up, especially because of the boom in direct to consumer. Most of these brands have followed a similar playbook. Figure out a niche like hair care or face care, find contract manufacturers who have formulations to cater to this niche, figure out great looking packaging design, run some Instagram ads and Google ads, put it all together, and now you find yourself running a beauty and personal care brand. A different way of saying this is most of these companies haven't really innovated. They've taken existing formulations and just put together a different branding for it. And that's where Nat Habit stands out. They've invested in R&D and innovated to create products that use natural ingredients without use of any chemicals or preservatives. And that's not it. They manufacture all of these products in-house. And that's exactly what got me curious. So here's a brand that started in a crowded space in 2019, invested heavily in R&D and setting up their own manufacturing, created unique products, had a unique offering to take to the consumers, and patiently scaled their way to 100 crores in annual revenue run rate, and is probably on its way to achieve the 1,000 crores in the next few years. When I first read about them, I did what I like doing best. I reached out to the founder to see if she would be open to coming on to the podcast for a conversation, and she graciously agreed. So here we are. So we have Swagatika, who's the founder of Nat Habit, here to talk about the journey of building Nat Habit, specifically from an R&D and a manufacturing perspective. Without further ado, let's jump into the conversation.
Swagatika, welcome to the Indian Dream podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you about your journey of building Nat Habit, specifically about the decision to manufacture all the products in-house. This season for the Indian Dream is going to be focused on the Make in India opportunity, the manufacturing aspect, and I'm really keen to talk about it. Take me back to 2019. What was the thesis back then? Because even 2019, when we're talking about the personal care space, the beauty and personal care space, fairly competitive. Also, a lot of, apart from all the legacy brands that we've all sort of grown up seeing, there were a bunch of startups that had already started back then, right? So, what was
Correct.
the thesis on this is the new angle? This is where there's a white space to build something.
All right. See, new brands have started coming in. BPC was not as cluttered as it is today. But new brands were coming across board, food, fitness, clothes, fashion, a lot of different things. The idea was that, see, the consumer is going to upgrade and upgrade massively fast. A lot of disposable income and a lot of need to try out something better than what they had been doing, right? The e-commerce channel is booming. The idea was through then also it's going to blast off. So that was the right opportunity to build something better, not just BPC, something better, and then use the e-commerce channel to distribute fast. So that was one hypothesis. The second piece in BPC was that the trend or the catch up that India was doing towards natural lifestyle was very, very evident. And it was clear in how people were taking to gyms, how people were choosing organic food, different kinds of, conversations around multivitamins, nutrition, a lot of those things. where you're wanting to choose a better lifestyle, and in that BPC plays a significant role. That is where we felt that there aren't enough products. There is enough positioning out there. There are brands that gave offerings for that natural thirst amongst consumers, but not necessarily all products were that great or meeting the expectations of the consumers.
Interesting. So even today or back then, right? When you think about starting a D2C brand, very rarely do you see people wanting to manufacture on their own. So generally what
Yeah,
happens is you come up with, hey, want to start in this category, this is the insight that I have. I'm going to go find contract manufacturers. I'm going to get them to produce in whatever minimum order quantity, start doing experiments, start doing Instagram ads, start trying to figure out if I can generate demand, right? But when you
yeah,
do that, I'm assuming you can't really differentiate the product too much, right? Because you're now reliant on the capabilities of contract manufacturers in India or abroad to be able to deliver that product, right? So as soon as you
right.
talk about doing something disruptive, doing something new, doing something better, I understand the need to manufacture at that point in time. But was it ever a question on should we just manufacture or should we just figure out a contract manufacturer and just focus on the brand? What made you decide to do both together?
Um, So fundamentally, you're right. You don't have a lot of control on your product when you get it manufactured elsewhere, especially when you're starting off, right? A large giant could be having a lot of control over manufacturing, even if it's outsourced. But when you're starting off, it's very difficult to have that kind of control. That's one point. But for us, it is even bigger. What we are building today, even today, right? We deal with about 800 raw materials that each of them needs to be processed in a certain way. And then some of those concoctions have to be again processed in certain ways where there is no such setup to handle this, right? To some extent, food industry understands how to handle natural ingredients, like they would know how to handle a mango or an amla or an aloe vera, but they still see it from the lens of taste, and they still add preservatives to it. When you see it from the lens of preserving certain phytoconstituents for your skin or your hair, that's a completely different story. You want to process it in a very different way to preserve it for your skin or hair, right? So that knowledge of derma, of psychology, and then nutrition in these all these ingredients, some of them are not even in food. All of that needed to come together, and then you apply it into processing, which never had any kind of setup. So you had to build it on your own. So the processing had to be ours. Also, the machinery that we developed, some of those machinery were not, they just didn't exist. We designed our own machinery, we designed our own lines, and that needed us to have our own manufacturing.
Very interesting. Manufacturing is one aspect of it. So there are three aspects to the way I see it, right? And
Yeah,
there's obviously the research and development of figuring out what to put together, what kind of ingredients to put together in what proportion, how do you
right.
have a shelf life, all of those. So there's
Yeah,
R&D involved, some innovation there. Then there's of course manufacturing at a decent scale, and then the marketing of it, right? Now
yeah,
I don't want to go too deep into the D2C marketing piece, not saying that you're not doing great stuff there. There's just there's a lot more content and playbooks out there on what it takes to scale on the D2C
right.
side. There's very little on the R&D side and the manufacturing side. So I want to double down on both of those things. Let's start at the R&D aspect. Right from
Sure.
finding the right talent. Does India have that kind of talent? How do you find that talent? How do you is it somebody that needs to be at the co-founding level because it's so critical to building the business like yours? How did you go about R&D? How did you figure out what products to launch with, and what how long does R&D take? What does it cost? A bunch of questions, but yeah, tell me about the R&D process.
Right. So Siddharth, unfortunately, industrial R&D is very poor. Overall, R&D is not very well supported in India, especially when you compare it to the likes of the US and Europe. R&D is not at a great place in India. And that results in not having good talent in India. Whoever really wants to get into research ends up going up to the US. All the good talent that is back in India would get into medicine, engineering, law, and then they would practice something else. And lots of times it's just getting doing an MBA and then entering into the business field. Um, when you go out and try to hire talent in the science field, people who want to do research, you end up getting either very, very fresh, new talent who have the curiosity, who have a very generalistic approach, who are probably intellectually there to be trained, but they don't have the experience. And the ones that are experienced perhaps don't have the kind of mindset and curiosity that typically probably the cream of the society has. Um, and they would end up, putting up all their past experiences and use that experience exactly the same way that they have been doing so, right? But we wanted people who would come and question, right? You don't go ahead and build that same cream again. You can't bring in those chemical emulsifiers and binders and stabilizers back into a formulation. Otherwise, it's very easy. Why would I need another R&D setup for this? So initial days was very, very tough. The What we basically did was it was founder led. It was myself and my co-founder. A lot of it in the beginning was me. So I used to lead R&D, and then we used to have a bunch of microbiologists, Ayurvedic pharmacists, regular pharmacists, people who have studied and have very, very high interest in R&D, but they don't have experience, right? So they were young, they had all the energy. We got them trained. We got the experience in consulting format from others. So, for example, if I didn't understand a part of the chemistry or cosmetology, I would take help from a consultant. If there were parts of Ayurveda that I didn't understand, I took help from them. But the question or the problem was primarily being solved by me and the team on the ground, and then didn't let any experienced person come in and tell me that this cannot be done. So that was the first approach. Even today, R&D is being led by my co-founder Gaurav. The team has expanded, more experienced folks. There are nanoscientists, there are microbiologists, biotechnologists, Ayurveda doctors, a lot of different kinds of people in the team. But the core still remains the same. If you are too much into what you have been doing and you don't want to change that way of thinking, then you're not a fit for the team.
Makes complete sense. Just one point on consultant, I think you will agree, and because of how you focused on that aspect of, very specific problem that they were coming in to solve. A lot of times when people are starting out, they tend to rely on consultants to solve the core problem of like defining the product
Yeah,
itself, or take the major work on the research side, which I've never
yeah,
seen work out.
yeah,
And then consultants get a bad rep for it as well. But I think the way to use consultants, as you said, is you lead the entire sort of discovery process, the research process, and the things
yeah,
that you get stuck up at. You take their help, get that
yeah.
specific experience, and then go back to with your team and actually solve it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely believe
Uh,
so. I mean, no matter how much consulting firms tell you that, eventually the decision lies with you, but I think the expectation somehow becomes that you will guide us and you will give
yeah.
us the path, which should not be the case.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. How big was the R&D team when you started out?
We were four people, and today we are nearly, I think, 18 odd people.
One of the things that I learned when I was doing research for the first time in the US, and there was not a concept in India, and I was working under a professor. And one of the things that I found very uncomfortable was the fact that, given you are brought up in the Indian education system where there is a set goal to get to, right? There is, you're
Yeah,
studying all of this to get to an exam and then
yeah,
therefore, get some grades. Research is open ended. You don't know where you're going to land up, right? So you don't, I mean, you have a fair idea on what kind of product you want to develop, but it can go thousand different ways. It can lead to,
yeah.
a non-functional product and stuff like that. What's the mindset that's required early days? Because you're under the gun in terms of, hey, you're building a business, not much runway, there's constraints on all sides, and then starting out with R&D. Tell me something about the mindset that's required to actually crack this in the early days.
Um, See, there still needs to be a goal in your mind. Otherwise, it's just aimless. If you're just a curious scientist,
Yeah.
you could go like you could just go on, right? So
Yeah.
there needs to be a goal in mind, and this is what I want in the form of a product, or in the form of a solution in that product, whatever it is you're looking for. What happens is that when you're involved, get you uncover a lot of things that could make your product better, or you could see further opportunities. Perhaps you don't want to solve it at this in this timeline, but you use that knowledge for something else. Right. So the mindset still needs to be that you need to complete something within a time frame. You can improve it to a certain degree, but don't just let the flow take you in a completely different direction where you miss your goals or your aims.
Got it. How many products were you researching on when you started out?
Uh, we started with two products, but they were not happening in parallel. I launched out the Uptan first, which is Uptan face pack, and then the Nutrimask, which is a hair creamy mask. So the Uptan was an easier task. It's just a mixing of ingredients, the choice or the grade of ingredients that you're putting in, and the change in formulation so that it can impact your skin to a certain extent. That was pretty much literature study. But there wasn't a lot of quantitative testing that I could do on whether it is really solving for your youth or for your acne or anything like that. So it was a lot more input led. When it came to the hair mask, it was again input led, but the form factor needed innovation. You were trying to build a cream without using any kind of emulsifier. You're pretty much relying on only natural ingredients to bind themselves and stay stable for 2 months, 3 months. I think the initial shelf life was 2 months. So those were the initial challenges. How do you decide on what to go, what to put into your formulation? How do you decide on the grade of that? And then the form factor. How do you develop a form factor with all natural ingredients? But those were very early days. After that, the challenge, we took up on the challenge and quantifying our results. Right.
Yeah.
So you use minimal, raw materials. You find the right process of extracting them. You find the right phytoconstituents or active ingredients, and then you quantify the results also. So, yeah.
Isn't the quantification of results, doesn't it take a while to sort of use the product and then conclude that this works, and having to do it at a decently large scale to remove all kinds of biases?
Uh, you still can't remove all kinds of biases. Yeah,
Right.
you'll take a very, very long time. But what we do is we take proxies. So, for example, our in vitro testing take care of the right input that is going to give a certain result, right? But a clinical trial will eventually give you that, a set of maybe 1,000 people have seen this kind of result. So we don't go for clinical. We haven't gone for clinical trials yet for anything. A lot of this is in vitro, in vivo, and certain dermatological testing that we
Sorry, what were the first two terms you said?
do. In vitro
Okay, what
is
does?
basically what you do is, let's say you have a compound XYZ that results in hair growth, okay, or not holistically hair growth. Let's say it helps in suppressing a certain hormone in your body, which is inhibiting hair growth, okay. And that compound, when you're testing on a cell structure, you want to see whether it is working in reducing that hormone or not. That you can do in the lab. What degrees of that compound is helping you do that, you're able to do that. You're able to conduct that experiment in the lab and test it out. So that's in vitro. In vivo testing is when you bring in together a formulation of multiple compounds and you see the resultant growth on, let's say, hair. It's not whether your hormone has been suppressed or not. If your hair has actually grown up to a certain extent, but it's not on people. They're still not on people.
Got it. Okay. um I have a slightly different question, but still related to R&D. Did you raise a round when you started out, or was it after some of the R&D that you did? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that. But
And so we raised a round after we had about, I think 3 lakhs, no, sorry, 1 lakh revenue per month. That was a seed round, and we had launched, I think, 3 products by then.
so my question, the it was leading to is, how supportive is the Indian investor ecosystem to invest in R&D led products, right? Because they come with a certain risk. They come with the risk of, will the R&D really work, and stuff like that. And not many people have done it, so there are not many successful playbooks to say, okay. And this is not just in you know physical products, but also when it comes to software and stuff like that, there's very little investment that happens in R&D. It's of course changed over the years, But I'm assuming it was very difficult back then.
Uh, mm, I think the lens to great product has come back. It was there, I would say, with legacy brands. It had
Hmm.
gone away to some extent when supply chain became the hero or distribution became the hero. And then once e-commerce came in, again distribution was zero, so product focus was going away. But it's getting more and more democratized, the channel. So people do understand that for the to win in the long run, you will have to have great products. So you will have to invest in R&D, technology, if it's a tech product, etc. So that they understand. Um, does that mean they will still wait for very long R&D cycles? No. You will still have to find your short-term goals. How do you manage business while continuously investing in R&D? Today, for example, we have projects that are around drug development that will result 2 years after this, right? But that you couldn't have done when you're starting off.
Yeah. You I mean, you have no option but to play the long game once
Yes,
you
yes,
sort of
yes,
become an
yes,
R&D led company, right?
yes.
So when you started out, 2019 is when you started out. How long did it take to one finish the R&D and then the 1 lakh milestone?
Uh, 2019. I think we took about 4 months from the day of launch to that 1 lakh milestone.
And just from the starting the research process to actually getting the product out, how long was that?
That was nearly 6 months.
So whatever said and done, 10 months before there's some validation from the market, right? To say
Yes,
that this is working. So
yes,
one of the important ingredients that I'm now figuring out is if you want to build an R&D led company, founder conviction has to be, to the max,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even today, I think it is massively founder conviction. Um, I'm so glad that it is rubbing off today with the team, and every member that you speak to today will say that they'll touch upon the R&D, they'll touch upon the fact that the product, they feel proud that it is being developed in house. Maybe 2 years into our launch, the team would be proud of the fact that we are manufacturing it fresh. It is all natural, it is pure, it is unadulterated. But the pride in R&D had still not come in. But today, the pride in R&D is there. But you just have to, as founders, you just have to keep at it. The conviction has to be very, very high.
And how big is the R&D team now? I know you started with 4. How big is the
Yeah,
team now?
it's about 18 people.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So I want to shift gears a little bit now. Of course, everything that we've said doesn't sort of cover the complications of running an R&D team and having the budgets and having the conviction and keep investing in things not working out. That for that you just have to start out and do it for yourself to figure that out.
Yeah,
But R&D is one aspect of it. Even after that, there are two paths that you have, which is, hey, let me take this formulation to an existing manufacturer and
yeah,
say, they already have machinery in place, they already have the processes in place. Let me not take another headache of R&D, manufacturing, figuring out e-commerce and customer retention,
yeah,
all of that. Let me
yeah,
outsource this versus the unconventional choice, which is what you guys took, which is let's manufacture this in-house as well. What was the
yeah.
thought process?
Um, Fresh as uh, the moat and the reason behind great quality products was something that we were convinced with from day one. We were really convinced about it. If you are a manufacturer that cannot give me fresh, you're out. We knew there wouldn't be anyone like that, but we still went ahead and tried out if there would be anyone who would give us that initial set of machinery, set lines, and could get started before we did our own thing. But very quickly, I think within a month we figured out, okay, this is not happening.
What's
It
fresh though?
it has to be us.
What's fresh in this
So,
category? What does fresh mean in this category?
so fresh means production on a daily basis. There are no preservatives in this formulation. They have a limited shelf life. So you want to maximize the life consumption time for the customer, right? You make it fresh, ship it off fresh. So for that, it required daily manufacturing, and that's something that no third party manufacturer would give us. This was with the easy product. With the difficult ones, the manufacturers themselves didn't know how to handle the raw materials. Like I was giving you examples, right? A few of the food manufacturers would understand how to handle, but majority people didn't understand. And even the food manufacturers only understood a bit of fruits and vegetables. That's about it. So we knew that this is our thing. This is going to be our moat. Yes, it's going to be a little bit of difficult journey in the beginning, but by the end of, I would say, 2 years, by 2021, we were so confident. Just give us any raw material, we'll figure out the machinery, we'll figure out the line, we'll make it modular, we'll know how to extract the phytoconstituent. And like today, we're very confident about any kind of raw material.
Very interesting. When you're starting out though with capital constraint, isn't the capex a little too hard to digest and say, whatever money I have, I'm going to invest in manufacturing, because customer acquisition is also,
Yeah,
pretty competitive
yeah,
and
yeah.
pretty high. How do you take that call? Or I mean, yeah, how do you take that call?
You see, fortunately for BPC, it's not a very big investment because price per gram is very high, unlike food industry, for example, right? So you need a lot of space, large machinery, etc. So that was a big saving for us. So R&D was not manufacturing was not a very, very big investment that way. Also, what you would see if you're manufacturing daily, right, for the daily demand, right, then you don't really need a very, very large space. It's not like you are a third-party manufacturer who's producing for a 3-year demand for one company today and tomorrow for somebody else, right? It's just for daily demand. So we've grown up our manufacturing slowly, which didn't require a lot of capex burn.
Interesting. During all this process of like focusing on R&D and manufacturing, I'm assuming you were obviously in the market to raise capital to grow faster and stuff like that. Did you hear pushback from investors on why are you going down this route?
On manufacturing, absolutely no, never.
Okay.
I think they were very, very supportive. In fact, they take some of the investors take pride in their portfolio companies who manufacture. Uh, so manufacturing, no. R&D, they've been skeptical. Not that you shouldn't do, right? They're very supportive that they're doing. They've just been skeptical whether we'll be able to pull off great R&D or not, and how far can we pull off. So, but today, yes, that confidence is very high.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, things have worked out, right? So
Yeah,
now in hindsight, it does make sense.
yeah.
And
But
especially
I mean,
because
no,
now,
I
if
mean,
you
to
look
be
at
fair,
it,
the investors, I mean, at least the investors with us, the kind of companies to seek out have also been that. I mean, their thesis has been to be manufacturing-led or product-led companies. So,
yeah, I think in the long run, if you're able to pull it off, it's obviously difficult because there are three different aspects of business that you're starting from scratch and trying to make it work. The moat is that much stronger in the long run. The
yeah,
defensibility of like the brand and the product is that much stronger versus somebody who's working through contract manufacturers. Somebody else is going to
yeah,
do the same thing, just a different packaging, just a different angle to advertise it, and then you see people moving over,
yeah,
which has happened a lot surprisingly over the last 3 years. I'm not a big consumer a lot of these products, but obviously people around me are. My wife is, and I've seen
yeah,
how brands have changed in the last 4 years as well. Right? On now this is better. Now this is better. Now this is better. And it keeps
yeah,
changing. But Nat Habit is something that she swears by, which is one of the
yeah.
reasons why I reached out to you. Um, yeah.
Glad to know.
Um, Okay, so coming back to manufacturing, one of the things that you've highlighted a couple of times is the supply chain of it, the ingredients of it.
Yeah.
Did we even have a supply chain for some of the ingredients that you're talking about? Because these are very regional, these are very like, home remedies kind of thing, which is not, I don't know how you even build supply chain for something like this.
See, actually, those are the easy ones.
Hmm.
Where we use, let's say, dal, or where we've been using sugar, or anything food based is very easy because imagine the food supply chain, the size of the supply
That's true.
chain, that's huge. So you don't face problems there. The supply chain for the rest of the ingredients, which represents about, I would say, 60-65% of our ingredients, could be non-food. Now, for those, supply chain had to be set up. A lot of things, it depends on the scale also, right? If you are, a 10 crore business, nobody really gives you a lot of bow. But yes, you have to build it up. You have to find, there are certain vendors who are really good to startups. They relive their own startup journey by helping out startups. So you take the pain of finding out those vendors. But from day one, we were very clear. We wanted national players. We wanted to, if you're taking a coconut oil, go to Tamil Nadu or Kerala and get it sourced. We take almond oil or almonds from Kashmir only. We take saffron only from Kashmir. We take Ratanjot that comes in from Afghanistan or Kashmir. So otherwise, you test anything else coming from anywhere else, the grade is just very, very poor. You're not left with any fighter consequence. So we were clear there. We took the pain on building up that supply chain also.
How do you find these vendors? Is it a fairly online ecosystem where you're able to go to some of these marketplaces and get in touch with these, or how do you find these people?
No, actually, no. It's not. IndiaMart is helpful, by the way. For
Hmm.
for starters, IndiaMart is great, but only to a small extent. We basically, let's say you are looking for a saffron, right? You try and understand saffron is like the easiest thing that I'm telling you, but pick up any herb, pick up any ingredient, right? You understand the botany, the biochemistry, the chemistry of it completely, and then you understand where is it grown in the world in India, what are the differences. You sample from different places. Sometimes you have to travel to those places to get those samples out. Um, but it's not an easy online play. Lot of work goes
I'm on
into
your
finding each ingredient.
I'm on your website, and I was on that fresh netra cream,
Yeah,
dhataki flowers. I'm hearing it
yeah,
for the first time what dhataki
yeah,
is, right?
yeah, yeah,
So when one, I'm just trying to figure out in my mind on like, first part is to figure out like dhataki works for under eye stuff,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
That something that a microbiologist or a R&D team is going to figure that out?
So a lot of that help actually comes from an Ayurvedic pharma scientist, right? So they understand a lot of these compounds or these natural drugs that help with different skin problems or hair problems. So that is the first point. With
Right.
that, you enter into literature study and you're able to figure out even more things. So, for example, why is a Bhataki working? Right? What is it in Bhataki
Hmm.
that you get this? Or maybe you
Hmm.
understood that something in almond helps your under eye problem. What is it in almond that is helping? Can you find that almond is something else also, which is in a higher degree? So it's a combination of different things. So self research as well as knowledge from Ayurveda.
Okay, so now you know the taki works.
Yeah,
How do you like, my Google search tells me that this is grown in Mizoram, West Bengal, Arunachal Pradesh. Is
yeah.
that now a trip there to figure out who produces it at a large scale, who's processing it, how can you get the best ingredient?
Uh, See, I think depends. So Bhataki is used in a very small quantity in the overall scale of the business, right?
Yeah,
So,
I
for
mean this
example,
was just an example, but
huh,
you get the point. Yeah.
but if, like I told you, if you're looking for a henna, right, somebody will
Hmm.
go to Rajasthan to Sujat to find number of vendors. When we're taking neem, for example, right, or we're taking hibiscus flowers in huge quantities, we take it from West Bengal. So, yes, somebody will travel down, speak to the vendors, get samples. Once the samples are locked, before you lock a plan with the vendor, visits are planned. There is a full audit checklist that we have. Is this vendor going to be able to scale for the next 3x or 4x growth? A lot of different things that go into before locking down that this is the vendor that we take from. Then you have to have one vendor is not enough. Then you have a secondary vendor, tertiary vendor. You will, if there's high demand and you want to keep two vendors so that there's a backup, you will divide the demand amongst them. Good amount of planning goes into procurement and supply chain.
Yeah, because this, I mean, as you said, this is a very key part to
Yeah,
delivering a high quality product, right? The
yeah,
kind of ingredients
yeah,
that go in.
yeah. Yeah.
um,
Also, you'll
Interesting.
have to plan. I mean, because you're doing fresh manufacturing, the shelf life of some of these ingredients we keep like 45 days to 1.5 months. Packaging material you can keep for 3 months, 6 months, depending on how you want to manage your working capital. But for fresh ingredients, we keep them for a low time, right? So if you get a lot and it gets rejected, then what do you do? Right? So a lot of these backup plans um, faster travel or faster logistics between that vendor to your facility. All of that is also needs to be planned out. So we employ a good amount of tech that has been developed by us ourselves because there was no good ERP. So everywhere you will hear us having developed things by ourselves just to be able to support this entire system. To be able to support daily manufacturing, there is tech deployed. To be able to support fresh supply chain, it's tech. The machinery that, like I was saying, uh, the cost of our manufacturing setup was also low, not just because it was scaled low, but also we developed the machinery in a way that we could use the same machinery across different processes. Um, we brought down the cost of some ready-made machinery by re-engineering them. We reverse engineered and then re-engineered them to make our own machinery. So a lot of innovation in every aspect of the business, not just the product.
Yeah, I and now that I'm thinking about it, if you don't do that, if you don't do that innovation in tech and supporting having an ERP,
Yeah.
you can't achieve scale, right? Because
Yeah.
then it's a passion business, it's a lifestyle
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
On and there are people who've done that, right? There are regional sort of, in
Yeah.
cities you'll find people who have some knowledge about this and make stuff at home.
Yeah.
But it's impossible to scale it because of the complexity of what you're dealing with.
Yes.
Very interesting. On that part of reverse engineering machinery, even for that matter, thinking about inventory planning in that context, do we have the talent? Do we have like fresh graduates who are able to crack this, or is it something that you just have to? And this is a larger point on the kind of talent that we're as a country producing from our education system. Do we have the talent for these different skill sets, or are these sort of find the right person, invest in them, and get them to learn this?
In see for supply chain, you will find there is enough talent, but the kind of supply chain we were trying to build was again so different.
Exactly.
Right? So we built up that team. It's pretty much being led by folks who have been trained ground up by us founders again. Then coming to tech, tech is not, you can find talent,
Correct.
good enough
Of
talent
course.
there.
Yeah.
But it had to be led with a vision. And so Gaurav is primarily a tech person. He's built tech products for almost like, I think 15 years out of his 20 years of his career. So we always had a very strong tech bent of mind in whatever we did, even in personalizing our messaging to people or giving the experience that we're giving to consumers. Everywhere we said that we will leverage tech. So that mindset was there. But yes, I mean, talent is available for this.
And about reverse engineering machinery, building machinery, what
That
about that
that that
talent?
that was again fresh talent needed to be groomed up. And there is good talent actually there. It's just about giving them opportunities. I think yesterday or day before, so we post projects out there for people coming out of IITs or engineering institutes, science institutes that if you can solve out these projects for us. And then somebody had just posted saying, do you even see such projects coming out of India where you are rewarded enough and it's a fulfilling project that you're doing? So yes, there is talent out there. It's just that they don't have enough opportunities. Opportunities like us is very rare. Even the R&D people who come into our team, they're so thankful that there is at least a modern company. You still want that setup. It should not be an age-old um, research institute that you're working in. It needs to be modern, latest, corporatish, and yet it gives you that opportunity to research like a European research or a European company would do or a US company would do. But these opportunities are less in India, so the talent will also be less.
Yeah. There's certain joy of researching on something that actually becomes a product in consumers' hand versus
Yeah,
researching for the
yeah,
sake
yeah,
of
yeah,
researching, right?
yeah,
Because a
yeah,
lot of the research institutes are just, I mean, I shouldn't say it, but like there's no end goal of where this is headed,
yeah, yeah.
and that can be concerning to
Yeah,
some of the
I mean,
researchers.
there is obviously the positive side to that, where you do fundamental research, but
Yeah,
a lot of researchers actually want to see application,
yeah,
and very few actually get that opportunity.
interesting. What was the moment that you're at today at 250 SKUs, and I understand with like 4, 5, 10, 15 doing manufacturing in house. What was the point, the inflection point to say, we have the guardrails or the playbooks in place now for us to press the accelerator and get to that 250 SKUs. Where in the journey did that happen, and what gave you the confidence to do that?
See, the idea is not to build more, the less the better, right? But we needed to because some of the products where you really need to cut through are large category products, and those are difficult R&D problems to solve for us. Like building a cleansing system, building a moisturizing system, all those were difficult. It's only now that we've launched a shampoo or a face wash, right? It took us 4 years to get here to build an all-natural shampoo or a face wash. And meanwhile, we had to build up that basket. Otherwise, it will not make economic sense to get a customer to your website and buy something just worth 200 rupees, right? So that basket needed to be big enough, or that offering or portfolio needed to be big enough for people to be able to choose from smaller categories, and hence that has um, increased up to 250 odd SKUs. Now, the second piece is that you are an online brand that has the ability or that luxury to be able to sell multiple products under the same name. It's not like you have to stuff inventory somewhere, especially when you're doing fresh. You have all the more luxury to have as many SKUs as possible. But we're not doing that anymore. We did that up till it served our purpose of expanding the basket and giving us the economics. Now that we are being able to solve some of the larger problems, it's very limited SKUs that roll out, and we might even cut short some of the SKUs that aren't doing so well.
Makes sense. Makes sense, because the overheads of just like being able to
Yeah,
manufacture them and getting the
yeah,
ingredients,
yeah,
it can be it
yeah,
can be daunting for, I mean, for the balance sheet itself, I guess.
yeah.
um, Interesting. But is it for something like this, when do you say this is PMF hit, right? Like this is product market fit, and there's not product there's product market fit at Nat Habit level, which
Yeah,
is people buy into the story, people buy into the concept, people want the fresh, all of that, but also PMF at the SKU level, right?
yeah.
How do you figure that out? Is it referrals? Is it organic traffic? Is it what gives you that confidence that hey, a PMF has been hit both at the brand level? Of course, it's been hit at the brand level, but like at the SKU level as well.
See, there are CAC benchmarks that we have, even for the smallest product. If those CAC benchmarks are not met, then the then the SKU probably has um, other servings or other purposes that it can solve for. But it is not a product market fit from the lens of being an acquisition or a must-have product. Right. Then comes, okay, if you're not an acquisition product, what else are you solving for? Are you solving for being my second product or my third product that will continue to repeat and give me a large market share? If you are not that, then maybe you're solving for giving me the perception, because the consumer still needs a plethora of choices in D2C, and it's solving for that, right? Or it is solving for that, basket filler. So each SKU needs to have a purpose. But the first ones are, are you cutting the CAC benchmarks? Are you cutting my repeat benchmarks? If not, then you solve for a certain purpose, and if not that also, then you are out of the
Interesting. um, what's the journey from here to 10x growth, right? From the public numbers that I saw, about 100 crore ARR. What does it take to get to 1,000 crores from here? Is it more on the e-commerce side? Is it more on scaling up manufacturing? What according to you gets you there?
system. See, both awareness and availability are the biggest pillars. A little bit of work, I would say probably 18 to 24 months of R&D work left for that 1,000 crore jump. Um, but most of the R&D work is done today to be able to take that leap. The two remaining pillars are awareness um, and availability. Uh, Today, we're just scratching the ground in terms of awareness. So we're investing into brand awareness now. And then we will venture into offline as well. But online itself, just with being able to invest into brand awareness, should be able to give us a good scale of about 600-700 crores, that's 6-7x from here. Um, and then you invest, and in parallel, then the offline should be able to give you that additional piece.
Got it. When you say R&D left, 2-3 years worth of R&D left, is it more high value SKUs or getting the existing products even better in terms of efficacy or
It's a combination of both.
okay,
It's a combination of both. And of course, after that, then the R&D becomes, continuous improvement and continuous newness into the system. Um, but I'm talking about things that are probably hindering us from getting the max juice out of the market today.
got it. Okay, makes sense. um, what does brand awareness mean, like in this case? Is it more brand focused marketing that needs to be done? Is that brand
Yeah.
awareness? How do you drive brand awareness?
See, brand focused marketing, yes or no, does not matter. It's just awareness. Where basically number of people knowing that you exist and what you do. Fundamentally knowing what you do. That's something that um, is lacking because you currently focus so much on performance. Yes, you do a little bit of social work, social community led marketing. You have great repeats and that contributes to a good amount of business. But just in terms of making people aware, you've completely relied on performance marketing and whatever word of mouth can come from your loyal customers. The next job is to make a lot more people aware that you exist not just as a BPC brand, but you do XYZ, which is why you're a better BPC brand. That piece of work needs to be done.
Got it. In building something like you've built, is it fair to say that you have to be very mindful about using the capital to not press the growth fuel too soon, and you sort of, it's inbuilt into the business to be patient with how you go about building this, because there's research involved, there's manufacturing involved, there's then taking it to market. Because I'm just taking an alternative path to this. 2019, somebody starts a D2C brand in the same segment that you are in, contract manufactures it, so has that ability to say, okay, I need that much more. So
Yeah,
whatever dollars I'm getting, I'm going to invest it, as much of it as possible, in performance marketing or customer acquisition, and
yeah,
therefore get to the 100, 200, 300 crore mark sooner.
yeah.
Two different paths, right? And in your path, you have, by design, you have to be patient.
Yes, we had to be patient. Um, like I was saying, a lot of that R&D work is done now. So hence
Hmm.
today I don't need to be patient. But
Hmm.
we had to be patient, or we had to find so many different things to do just to be able to build up that business while the core R&D work was happening.
Coming back to the India focus on R&D, the other problem in India R&D is there's no protection, right? So
Hmm.
today, technically, you have all your ingredients at the back of your product.
Yeah.
Um, is there any sort of protection for all the research that you've done?
See, ingredients won't do anything. You can take all the
Hmm.
ingredients that are listed out
Hmm.
there and you'll not be able to still do what you're doing
Hmm.
because a big part of the final formulation is the processing. Right. So there are certain processes that are deployed on each of these ingredients and then the set of ingredients to be able to come up with whatever we're coming up with. So ingredients is
Interesting.
not a problem at all. If you want to duplicate the processes, reverse engineer that, you can try to. Some people have even gone ahead and tried and thankfully failed.
Hmm.
But it's not an easy job. You will still have to do what we are doing. If you want to get that fresh texture of let's imagine bacon milk mixed in milk, right? As simple as that. No matter what you do, if you don't make it fresh the way we are doing, right?
Hmm.
Even if you add preservatives to it, you would still have to use real bacon and real milk to be able to get that texture, which nobody wants to deal with. Go to any third party, they will say, I don't even know how to deal with real milk. So,
Hmm.
yeah, just knowing the
Got
ingredients
it.
is enough.
But it's still coming back to the question: are there protections in India against like all the R&D and formulations that you've created? Can you really invest and protect it, or is it not worth it?
No, we do. So we have filed a few patents as well. But see, if there are if it's just an ingredient play that we're doing, a lot of times we don't end up getting a recipe. But what we do is we involve the processing that is resulting in that formulation and then file for that.
Got it.
Because look,
Interesting.
I mean, patent filing is also expensive. Every different
Right.
angle
That's
that
what I was
you
gonna
want
say.
to cover is going to be additional cost. So you choose which ones to cover.
Got it. And then if it comes to fighting it, that's another beast
Yeah, that's
altogether.
another. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
Got it.
it's very simple things. Just trademarks. Okay, we created names which were we knew that they wouldn't be search volumes for these names. Calling a face pack a lepa would not make somebody understand very quickly, but then that will stick and that will be ours. Okay? But now people go ahead and copy those names. People copy the name Malai. People copy the name. They copied Dasabuti to that extent. I mean, you could come up with any Ayurvedic name, but yes. And then you go ahead and fight these battles. That is so expensive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not like it's not just expensive. It takes years before, like, it's irrelevant before it
Yeah,
doesn't matter you by the time you win it.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, we're gonna end this. I have one last question. What are your top three learnings of building Nat Habit in the last 5 years? Things that there are some learnings that when starting out, there are going to be some struggles and you're going to figure it out. But like three things that surprised you on and now you swear by it.
I think the first one is just the conviction in product quality and what it can do for you uh, in terms of returns, right? Is something that I did not expect. I did not expect that people would people's love for our products when you invest into a good product is going to revert back with such high receipts and is going to make the product is going to make economics advantageous to this extent is something that I did not expect, and that was on the positive side. So that just reinforces that keep building great products. The second piece is hard learned, and you keep learning all the time. Is building an organization is just so tough. It's just so tough. You have to keep investing into talent. You have to keep thinking about the organization. What other? Oh yeah, money. So yes, there have been times where you've been, at least in the early stages, where you've wanted to go spend and scale up the business while others are running past you. Um, you could just spend money and go take up more customers. You would burn money, but I think it stood by that cautious lens that we will build it in a sustainable way. That's a hard thing that keeps pinching at you. So you still have to find ways of bringing up business even though your R&D is slow. Otherwise, no point bringing up a great R&D product and then there is no market to go after. Yeah,
Yeah, especially in the era that you're talking about,
yeah,
2021, 22, the
yeah,
amount of money that was being poured into Facebook, Google ads
yeah,
to just
yeah, yeah,
acquire
yeah.
customers, I can imagine how difficult it is to say, no, no,
Yes,
we're not going to go down that path, right?
yeah, yeah,
And not just from external people. I'm assuming it's also some of the internal folks who question the fact that why aren't we doing it, right? Why aren't we
yeah, yeah,
spending when we
yeah,
can go out and
yeah,
actually do this?
yeah, yeah,
So, I
yeah,
mean, it comes back to the conviction aspect on this is the right way to do it and we are going to stick
yeah,
by it.
yes,
This is a 10, 20, 15, 20-year game when you're building a brand like yours.
right,
Even if somebody sort of pips goes past you in the short run, doesn't really make a difference as such.
right.
Yeah,
That's so easy
perfect.
said, retrospectively
Easier
done
said
now.
than done. 100%, 100%
I
easier
mean,
said than done.
so
Yeah,
many doubts every day.
exactly. Yeah, you sleep with some of those questions. You're like, still don't need the answer. Maybe tomorrow morning you'll sort of get that aha
Yeah,
moment and be able to have that conviction. But it's only in hindsight that you look back and you're like, thank God
yes,
we didn't go down that route.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah,
I completely agree. Perfect. Thank you so much, Sogatika. This was amazing. This was great, especially because I think a country like ours needs more focus on R&D, more focus
yeah,
on manufacturing. I think that's where the next set of growth is. That's where the next set of employment is. And if we don't get it right, I think there are a bunch of other problems that we'll need to face. So you're a role model and an inspiration for, I'm sure, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of brands who want to start out, that there is a different way of doing it, and then focus on the product quality and then build for the long run. So thank you so much. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing
Thank
those
you for
insights.
that. Thank you for giving me time. Really
Of
a
course.
pleasure if it inspires anybody even a little bit. Thanks so much.